This message didn't land in front of you by accident, chosen one. It's spiritual, it's precise, and it's timed. You've been walking through this life with a quiet strength most don't understand. They see your face, but they don't know the weight you carry. They hear your words, but they can't feel the depth you speak from. And now, something deeper is being revealed. Someone is madly in love with you. You know their name, not just with your memory, but with your spirit. This isn't someone new to your story. It's someone whose heart has never let go. Not fully, not truthfully. Because their soul remembers you, the real you, the chosen one. They watched you rise when others broke. They felt you shift when you stopped shrinking yourself. They tried to pretend. They tried to distract. But love like this doesn't fade, but it ferments. It grows potent with time, truth, and divine timing. And now, that love is rising to the surface. They're being pulled, not by nostalgia, but by the calling they once tried to silence. The realization hit them like lightning. I lost something heaven gave me. And you? You've been tested, refined, elevated. You're not the same person they once knew. You're ranked in spirit now. That's why things have felt heavier. That's why the warfare increased. You carry influence in unseen realms. You shift things just by being. This love, it's not cute, it's not casual, it's cosmic. And it's coming back around, not for drama, but for destiny. So listen closely, chosen one. Don't chase. Stay in alignment. Because when God authors a connection, no time, distance, or mistake can erase it. Someone is madly in love with you. And this time, you may better grasp the unseen rank you now have and why obedience was the key that opened it by reading these 7 impactful chapters. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe before we get started, because this message is more than simply a video. It's a heavenly affirmation of your covert advertising. This is a spiritual warning for those who have been silently following God and are now carrying hidden rank across dimensions they aren't even aware of yet. It's not just superficial inspiration. Enter 77 in the comments section immediately if this is how your spirit feels. That number is a prophetic signal, not only a symbolic one. It proclaims, I'm aligned, I'm awake, I'm operating in unseen authority. Not everyone is going to finish. Only those whose souls are in sync with the truth of God. Stayers will start to see the spiritual weight of their obedience, the doors that will soon open due to quiet yeses, and the release of heavenly honor in places that are invisible to the naked eye. You don't hear something once, and then forget about it. Every time you return to this live revelation, a new layer will be revealed. A new world will open, and your spirit will be confirmed once again. The conflict was not what you had anticipated. You weren't insane for remaining submissive, and you'll see why in this message. Let's investigate further. Chapter 1. The Unobserved Test. Obedience doesn't often seem magnificent when it is chosen. There is no acknowledgement for it. There is no trend. There is no viral success. In actuality, compliance often seems to be disregarded. It seems that you were silent when you had the opportunity to speak. When your heart was hurting, it seemed like you were saying yes to God. You seemed to have given up, not because you were weak, but rather because you were spiritually knowledgeable enough to put your faith in God's plan rather than your own. God put your submission to the test in the shadows, not in the limelight. To share the love of the angels, write Amen, and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. You were learning to remain still while others chased stages. You were being sorted while others were being seen. Heaven was keeping an eye on you to develop you, not to condemn you. There were times when you had every excuse to give up. You had the chance to strike back, but you decided against it. You had the option to defend yourself, but instead, you let God speak for you. You had the option to play the game, take the shortcut, and sell out for results, but you chose not to. Rather, you persevered, took the hard route, and wept in private without harboring resentment. And heaven captured every moment, even though no one cheered you on. It was always about stance, not perfection. Private submission was always the goal here, not public triumph. The true test was not your level of accomplishment, but rather your level of faith in the face of illogical circumstances. When no one else could see, God was putting your moral character to the test. He was observing what you would do in the absence of applause. When your sole reward was greater stillness, He was testing your compliance. You didn't falter, however. You paid the price for obeying. When it would have been easy to go, you remained. Yes, Lord. Even though it seemed like it was shattering you, you replied. You didn't follow orders to get praise, following, or favor. Because you love Him, you obeyed. You received your spiritual rank as a result. The folks in your immediate vicinity were unaware that you had passed a test. They assumed you were just silent. They believed you to be passive. They believed that you were just passing up possibilities. Heaven, however, was aware that you were passing a test that was created for eternity, and that only those who were genuinely selected could pass. You now possess an authority that no man can create, since you passed what no man could measure. A spiritual weight, a supernatural underpinning, and a calm might that changes atmospheres, not with noise, but with presence, instead of a worldly authority. Because of your obedience in the dark, you have gained rank in the light of God's favor, and the world of the unseen now knows who you are. You passed the exam that no one saw. Chapter 2. Spiritual currency is obedience. Currency is what provides you buying power in the natural world. However, obedience, rather than wealth, power, or intelligence, is what grants entry in the spiritual world. It is not weakness to obey. It isn't passive. It's not about fear-based rule-following or mindless obedience. Power comes from obedience. Only a select few are wealthy in it, as few are prepared to pay its price, making it the money of heaven. The spiritual world receives a signal from every act of obedience. Angels are told, "This one walks with orders, not opinions." Heaven is told, "I can be trusted." God is told, "You can give me more and I won't misuse it." And hell is told, "You can't tempt me out of alignment." You made a spiritual deposit each time you followed, chosen one, without fully comprehending the plan. Your authority increased each time you remained pure, when impurity was simpler. You were investing in something timeless each time you said no to consolation, and yes to conviction. Even though you may not have seen any effects right away, you were gaining access in spirit. You may enter heavenly realms with obedience. It opens up tactics. It causes heavenly motion. It puts you in a position where your words have more than simply an emotional impact. They have a spiritual power. Your yes makes you known in worlds beyond this one. Even if others may not know your name, a lot of individuals are able to speak. A lot of individuals are capable of inspiring, leading, and entertaining. However, it does not imply that they are spiritually powerful. That does not imply that they are approved by God, because obedience is the only way to change an environment, while charm can draw people together. Only obedience can rock countries and lift generational curses, but talent may provide a platform. Only obedience can heal, deliver, and change. Gifts can only impress. As you can see, there are many influential people on earth, but only a select few have real status in heaven. The distinction is obedience. It's not always loud to obey. Sometimes it's better to say nothing than to say everything. Sometimes God calls you to something bigger, which means letting go of what is good. Sometimes it means avoiding what seems to be an opportunity because your soul understands it's really a trap. You weren't just being tried. You were being trusted each time you obeyed while no one else was there. You are ascending in the hierarchy of heaven, which is based on posture rather than performance and purity rather than ego. Additionally, God has a history of praising persons who comply in secret before making public announcements about them. You made no concessions. Pressure didn't cause you to fold. For attention, you didn't sell out. And that obedience has now become authority, the sort that already has the confirmation of heaven and does not need confirmation. Therefore, when things begin to move in your favor, don't be shocked. Don't wonder why people are bringing up your name in places you've never been. When doors suddenly open for you without any reason, don't be surprised. It's not a stroke of luck. It isn't a coincidence. It is the return of favor in the form of spiritual money. The withdrawals that you have been accumulating in the unseen world are going to start. You are here because of obedience, and it is obedience that will continue to open doors that others may only imagine. Chapter 3. Your position is not earthly. It's time to realize something important. Chosen one. Heaven determines your status, not other people. You are not allowed to wear a crown in public. You may not be honored by the public, sit on a platform, or have a title. Indeed, you may be the one they consistently undervalue, the one they reject, ridicule, or ignore. But in the spiritual domain, which really rules all realms, none of it alters who you are. Angels already know your name, but others may never respect it. Because you not only made it through what you went through, but you also surrendered to it. They acknowledge the authority inscribed on your obedience. Additionally, submitting opens doors that talent cannot. You are dangerous because of your submission, not because of your rank. Power was not what you sought. You didn't pretend to be influential. To attract more people, you didn't pander to culture. You become a spiritual heavyweight instead, because you humbled before God. You are strong because heaven hears your voice, not because others are familiar with you. The weight of alignment in your voice causes things to change when you speak, not because you yell. You've been put to the test by fire. You said yes, even if it was painful. When it meant losing comfort, convenience, and connection, you obeyed. And even though no one can see it from the outside, that degree of compliance is what gets you graded. You don't belong for a reason. A cause of your spiritual loneliness. A reason why, despite having a pure heart, people misinterpret you. Indeed, that is the reason you are subjected to illogical assaults. Because you walk in the Spirit rather than merely the natural. Darkness is intimidated by the area you travel in, even when others are unable to articulate their discomfort. What's concealed is disturbed by your presence. What's filthy is exposed by your purity. What's tumultuous is confused by your calm. The frequency of someone God trusts is carried by your voice. To be in a position of power, you need not need a title. To create an impression, you don't need a stage. Applause is not necessary to validate your assignment. In worlds beyond the visible, your rank carries weight. Angels form as soon as you enter a room. Hell notices when you bow down to pray. Speaking the truth causes bonds to break, not because of your appearance to others, but rather because of who you have become in God's presence. You disturb people's spirituality. You are an agent of the kingdom. Because of your obedience, you are the human manifestation of heaven's response. Power like this cannot be purchased. Classroom instruction is not an option. It cannot be gauged by status or followers. Don't be shocked when others neglect you. Yet opportunities for you arise, because this is the only way to gain authority, to be crushed and still say, God, I trust you. When you enter, don't be surprised if rooms change without warning. When your battle becomes more intense, don't get confused. It's because systems of evil are threatened by your spiritual position. You are walking in evidence, the evidence of someone who has been put to the test, trusted, and changed by obedience, not an ego. You were eligible for this rank. You didn't request it. And now, you walk with a cloak that is beyond description. Although what you are carrying is not from this world, It will soon have an effect on it. You have a ranking. You are known. You are living proof that heaven is still moved by obedience. Section 4. Angels acknowledge your yes. There have been times when you've felt totally alone, chosen one. There were times when it felt like nobody could relate to the burden you were bearing. There were times when your quiet hurt and your obedience seemed stupid. You're going to realize, however, that heaven never missed your yes. Heaven keeps a watchful eye on you, not for perfection, but for alignment, for obedience that comes from the heart rather than merely the lips. And something changed in the unseen world each time you decided to follow God's guidance rather than your own. Talent is not allotted to angels. Charm and social standing don't appeal to them. They are not followers. They follow heavenly guidance. And heaven was authorized to release backup on your behalf because of your obedience, particularly the expensive, painful, and silent kind. Angels accompany you because your yes triggered their movement, not because others know you, but rather because heaven trusts you. Because you answered yes when it was awkward, perplexing, and lonely. There are invisible hosts waging wars on your behalf that never entered the natural world. It was a signal when God said, "It's not for you." And you ended that connection. You turned down that chance because it didn't align with your values. It was alignment. That season you went through without retaliating, without giving up, and without compromising your morals. Heaven heard it more loudly than any cry because it was divine obedience. This one is ready. This one can be trusted. This one is walking by faith, not by sight. It was like a trumpet in the spirit each time you obeyed when it would have been simpler to compromise. You see, your actions triggered tasks in addition to advancing you. Because obedience is a GPS signal, and more than simply spiritual money, they called upon heavenly help. Angels react to the coordinates of your submission, and it aligns you with the map of heaven. They have accompanied you through every chamber, every route, and every conflict, even if you haven't seen them. Some calamities were prevented for a reason, a cause of certain assaults' failure. Doors were closed before you could enter for a purpose. It was protection, but you mistook it for rejection. You mistook it for a delay, but it was really direction. Heaven has been watching you say yes without knowing all the specifics. You were always given up, even if you weren't always certain. Even if you didn't always comprehend, you continued on. Your life is in line with your calling. And now that obedience has brought you divine support, spiritual doors are opening. You sought obedience rather than the benefit. The blessing is now after you. Know this then. If you've been feeling like nothing is happening, the invisible world has been expanding all around you. The assistance is already available. The alignment is underway. And the celestial world knows exactly who you are and what you are carrying. You're not alone in your journey. You weren't. And you have received not only a calling, but also the complete backing of heaven as a result of your faithfulness. Chapter 5. Your alignment is feared by hell. Let's be clear. Chosen one. You finally aligned yourself with God's will, which is why the assaults became more intense, not because you were heading in the wrong direction. Hell's alarms went off when you ceased making concessions and began to truly submit. Because you were obedient, rather than because you were loud, showy, or flawless, you became a direct danger to the kingdom of Satan. Those who are just religious are not targeted by hell. It doesn't care about those who play church or are spiritually apathetic. Hell battles those who are in alignment, those who live by the motto, "God, I'll obey," rather than just saying, "God, I believe." You were assaulted because you were dangerous, not because you were weak. Not only did you alter your actions when you aligned, but you also altered your spiritual posture. You entered a heavenly rank that upended the demonic hierarchy. You developed into a weapon that hell couldn't control, and a fighter that heaven could rely on. Confusion enters enemy territory each time you secretly say, yes to God. You break another chain each time you choose to forgive, when you might have retaliated. You close a demonic entry point each time you remain upright in a society that encourages compromise. You were rewriting your spiritual legacy each time you said no to things that suited your body, but yes to those that served your mission. Being obedient gives you strength in addition to protection. In addition to pleasing heaven, it also frightens hell. Because the adversary relied on obedience to shut doors. It stifles uninformed agreements. Curses that were only waiting to recur through your lineage are canceled by it. Hell has plans for your life, so don't fool yourself. It desired for you to get hooked. It desired for you to be broken. It desired for you to be mute, resentful, spiritually numb, and bitter. Distractions, connections, people, and hidden benefits were all used as traps. However, you obeyed, saying, "No more."